Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Bull. Speedball might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal! For you in all its magnificence.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're listening to this latest Wolves Fancast match review show. I'm your host, Little Dan. On tonight's show, I've got with me Stu, Greg, and Pricey to go over yesterday's 1-1 draw at home to Everton. As usual, this show is in association with the Sports Social Podcast Network, fcquiz.app, and the Boston Coffee and Vending Company. Gents, fortunately for us, this weekend the results have gone our way. Leicester losing 1-0 away to Chelsea earlier on this afternoon. Southampton getting battered 3-1 away to Liverpool, but the more sort of clinical fixture that we all had eyes on between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. yesterday, Crystal Palace running out 1-0 winners at home against Ipswich Town, which now, spoiler alert, after Wolves' 1-1 draw at home to Everton, we are now 6 points clear of the relegation zone. Call it 7 with the goal difference, but I'll come to you first, Greg. The subs bench yesterday, on paper, looks pretty handy. Sam Johnston, Santi Breno, Wang, Rodrigo Gomez, Tommy Doyle, Pablo Sarabia, Gonzalo Guedes, Nasser Giga, and Pedro Lima. But when you saw that starting lineup yesterday, what was your sort of feelings on the formation, the way we were set up against an Everton side who, let's be fair, aren't Galacticos in the kindest stretch?
Yeah, hello everyone. Obviously you could see the difference bringing some of our players back in makes, and it does make the squad look a lot better. There was several players that were making their return back. Obviously, the only concern for me is how fit they were, how much training they've had, how much time they've prepared. But they're not particularly upset or surprised by the team. Obviously, great to see Agbadou back, and I think he made a big difference yesterday. I'm sure we'll all agree on that, coming back into the side. But it gives us options. We've had, even last season, we had situations where, you look at the team, you're like, crikey, what options have we got to change things, to bring things off the bench? There's a lot of kids on there, a lot more defensive players. So, you do feel then, at least if things aren't going quite the way that you want it to, that you've got options there to bring other players in, which is important, and try and keep people fresh as well. That's particularly, again, this time of the season, a lot of games, a lot of stuff going on, people picking up knocks. So having the ability to kind of rotate and keep things fresh is also important.
We've got a fair comment straight away in the comment section on YouTube by David Hopper. Can we just spend the next hour talking about Andre and Agbadou? Because, it wasn't a match that you'd put on at Saturday 8 p.m. again, primetime TV again, would you? Based on both teams last night, it wasn't pleasant for me in the ground. I'm not sure what it was for people who watched it at home. I mentioned on Friday in our WhatsApp group that obviously with the pictures that Emmanuel Agbadou had sort of come through the training session, he was likely to start. The pictures that we saw and from the game last night, heavily strapped up, but massive positive having him back in the starting lineup. Pricey, Emmanuel Agbadou.
Well, 100%. I mean, he's the general, isn't he? Their defensive general. We just immediately look a much stronger back line with him there for a couple of reasons, really. One, he's a bloody good defender, and he showed that yesterday as well. I think he also, and I know when he first started, we had some questions over his distribution, but I thought that's improving now. His distribution's a lot better than when he first came to us in January. But it's just he's a colossus, and he's a presence in the opposition box and corners. We don't have an abundance of tall players as well. It's probably just him, Larsen, and Munetsi, who are probably handy at corners. But I also noticed the black tape or strapping around his legs, and I just at some point I just thought, it will be just our luck if he breaks down at some point during the game, and then we'll put ourselves in a bit more trouble. Or Jigo would have to come on, and I think he looked nervous in his previous outings, but I think he's going to end up, or certainly the early signs show that he's going to be a brilliant signing for us. Agbadou, he ticks a lot of boxes. He's got the mental attributes as well as the physical attributes to really thrive. I think he makes Doc and Totti look better as well, just by purely being there. We look a better defensive unit with him there. So I was delighted to see him back fit and hopefully stays fit as well for the remainder.
Yeah, definitely. I thought he was outstanding again last night for a bloke who clearly wasn't anywhere near 100% fit with his makeshift hamstring supports that he had on yesterday. He made the game look effortless at times, the way he was distributing the ball, turning away from Better. I think that was sort of Everton's ploy, wasn't it? Try and be resilient and just try and launch balls over our defence in the hope that Better could do something on his own. But I thought Emmanuel Agbadou, the way that he carries himself, it would be sort of front runner for the captaincy for me in the summer if and when Nelson Semedo leaves. But just going back to that lineup against Drew, it looked sort of like a 5-4-1 formation, didn't it, or a 5-1-3-1? I thought it was a six-man defence at times last night. I'm going to come to my frustrations over that performance a bit later on. But what was your thoughts on that lineup at sort of 6:45 or whatever it was last night?
I mean, I said to Jafar when we were in the Emerald Club, I said that screams 3-4-2-1, and it was kind of what it was, with having Munetsi and Bellegarde as false tens in a way, and going as narrow as possible and rely on your wing backs. But I think that was more a case of let's just be solid and resolute and do everything that we can to not let Beto, in the form that he was in, get behind you and get through, because out of nowhere he's turned into a decent player. But you are right, Dan. I mean, you said it yourself, just that Agbadou was outstanding and he was half a man. He was strapped up. He's clearly not moving as clearly as he was 3 or 4 weeks ago. And yet he was head and shoulders above everyone else in the rest of that defence. And if we are relying on people like that and they're willing to put their bodies on the line, on the one hand, yeah, it's great that we've got people like that who are willing to. I mean, I don't want him anywhere near that cursed captain's armband. They've talked about this on Crime Walls enough. So put it in the sea, put it in the canal, burn it. Just give
Sarabia.
We'll get onto Super Sarabia later. But he is the natural leader in this squad now already, and you can see that they look to him not for guidance, for more like he's not our dad, but he's the one in charge, and he's been here since January. It's quite astonishing, really. We've had this before where you look at old Roger the Drunk when he came in and the captaincy was moved from Carl Henry to him and he didn't work. He went the complete opposite way. Agbadou's come in, his captaincy without the armband. Leave it like that.
Definitely. Is it my headset or is someone hoovering in the background? No, I don't know. It might be my headset again. I know that's more. Possibly sounds just like a word. Have you got the drunk sweats on? Is that what it is? You got a fan close to you?
I've got nothing. I'm fine.
I thought you was sweating last night's 10 gallons down you. Right. Wasn't the greatest game at all across the 90 minutes, but the sort of the first half an hour was a bit cagey. Everton had a couple of chances where a couple of blocks. Agbadou got a decent block in from, I think it was a Decore effort before Jack Harrison put the visitors ahead. I looked on Twitter earlier and some of the Everton comments just says it all. Ben, I'm going to go Ben, the Everton fan. I genuinely cannot wait until we no longer have to watch the likes of Jack Harrison and Jesper Lindstrom play for Everton. Jesper Lindstrom was the assist for Jack Harrison's goal. Jack Harrison had gone 39 games without a goal for Everton until last night. Morgan, the Everton fan, not asked if Jack Harrison has scored. He's fucking wank. Can't wait to see the back of him. LFJ 991 can't fool Jack Harrison with his consistency this season. Never seen a player be as consistently shit as he has been, and yet Jack Harrison scored Everton's 9,000th goal in all competitions in their history last night. 2 wicked deflections, and the writing just seemed on the wall, didn't it? That Wolves needed a win or even just a point to start getting a bit more away from that relegation zone, but What did you make of that first half an hour, Stu, and that goal scenario itself? Because it all started from, I think there was a bit of a header from Doherty that went a bit loose. Then it ended up back to Emmanuel Agbadou, who tries to find Jurgen Strand Larsen, and he's just anti-Velcro, isn't he? He's nowhere near the ball. He can't hold the ball up, and before you know it, Lindstrom's playing Harrison in, and then, like I said, 2 wicked deflections, and it's 1-0 to the visitors.
Yeah, it seemed like a lazy ball out from Agbadou, to be honest. You know that he's, like you just said with Strand Larsen, he's either going to hold it up or it's going to bounce straight off him. And doing that in the centre circle is a dangerous play at the best of times. But you still don't expect that kind of thing to happen. And it is just our luck that he bounces the way it does, and that it takes the deflections that beat Saar, who I thought was superb yesterday. When he has one of them days where he doesn't mess about or doesn't do anything stupid, he's a genuinely impressive Premier League goalkeeper. But that's by the by. But that first half hour, I thought it was just dull. I don't think the crowd, nothing was happening. Everton, as per usual, didn't sing. It was just drab and awful, and it was the exact thing that you worry about an 8 o'clock kickoff in the Premier League, where we've had it in the FA Cup before, and it's been perfect. Like the Man United one, it's a wonderful atmosphere. We know what the atmosphere is at the minute. There's reasons for that, but I just think nothing was good. Like, there was no oomph or anything. It was just a bit drab, and when that happens, you kind of think, okay, writing's on the wall here. But they didn't hide.
Price, the buzz is definitely coming from you in some form of fashion. Not sure if it's your headphones or the missus hoovering at 9:10 on a Sunday night, but it's definitely coming from you, mate.
If someone's hoovering, definitely missus. She's like,
yeah. What did you make to the first half an hour, Price?
do you know what? Like you say, it wasn't like, as far as like Saturday night prime time entertainment goes, you know, I'd rather watch something with Michael Barrymore in, to be honest.
Yeah,
strike
it lucky on a Saturday night with Barrymore.
Yeah, there's no hotspots going on yesterday, but I mean, the stats show that. I mean, there was probably only about like 4 shots on target the whole game, if that really. But it wasn't. It's a weird one because with Everton coming here, you know, let's face it, they're safe already, aren't they? Everton, they played like a team who essentially, I mean, can you be on the beach already in March time? But like, given how consistently shit the bottom 3 have been, like probably the worst bottom 3 in Premier League history, it's pretty much set now. In my eyes anyway, that's like, you know, that bottom 3 now is as it is. So the game itself, there was, I'm assuming when it was picked for TV, there was assuming there was a lot more jeopardy that was going to be on this game than there's actually turned out to be the case. So yeah, it kind of played 2 kind of low-ish quality teams, and you know, whilst that you can still make an argument for, you know, there's some jeopardy on it for us. It obviously didn't end up panning that way, and you know, there was a few. I think there's a few frantic moments in the game where there was like a slight bit of back and forth, but overall, you know, quality was fairly low. And ultimately, you know, it's so you look at the players that are on the pitch, certainly from Everton's point of view, like yeah, there with the Jack Harrison stuff. I mean, someone who their own fans think is horrendously shit is still managing like to score against us. But I mean, that being said, with their goal, I thought, I know, Munetsi, it was a weird one with his goal because he wasn't really struck with much force or anything at all, but it just kind of like gently rolled its way into the corner. But I mean, Bellegarde again, I have to hold, you know, I have to say that he's in the team on merit at the minute. I can't, you know, the agenda can only last for so long, I suppose. But now that he's been, well, the agenda was right when he was being consistently shit in the position that wasn't working for him, but now he's in the better position that works for him. It was a good through ball from him through to Munetsi, who also, you know, I haven't been particularly enamoured with since he's joined us. You know, certainly the last game, I thought that's with the Fulham game. Was the game I thought that he looked appalling. I don't know how he wasn't taken off, but he was obviously a good finish, defense way in the net. But I thought we'd kind of kick on from there. But whilst we had a lot of the ball, I really don't think we laid too much more of a glove on Everton after that, sadly. And then we'll probably talk about him in a bit, but I thought Strand Larsen was obviously one of the culprits with that as well.
Yeah, I've got a segment on Strand Larsen a bit later on where we can all put our oar in on the Norwegian. Greg, Stu mentioned it that it was a good reaction to going behind after Everton took the lead. But how did you sort of see how the first half panned out?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt a bit of inevitability with Everton's goal. They were going to score a fluke or something was going to bounce in or something like that. I mean, I found them to be very functional. Obviously, Moyes has got them hard to beat and hard to break down. But the ball, the obvious nature was get the ball out, get it into the channels, or try and play it off Beto, and then see what you can pick up or hoover up around that. I thought we reacted well. I'm glad we got the goal before half time. I think that settled both the team and us as a crowd down. I think if we'd have gone in 1-0 down, I think that would have started a collective panicking. But I think, getting the goal, and I think it was a big goal for Munetsi. Yeah, it's not going to win the push gas award or anything, but it was a goal. He needed one, whether it was off his arse or, he needed a goal, and I think that will give him confidence to move forward. But I think, it was important for us at that point to get back into it and to kind of use that as a platform to build on. And I thought we did that well, to be honest.
He's becoming a bit of an anomaly, isn't he, Munetsi? He is a bit of a sort of a battering ram type box-to-box midfielder, but taking some comments from some Wolves fans on Munetsi, Sam Whitehouse would rather be waterboarded than watch Marshall Munetsi for 90 minutes. Retweet this if and when he scores. Yaz WWFC, am I the only one that likes Munetsi? And Dan Butler, still unsure on his long-term role, but Munetsi crashing the box for his goal is a good sign and good use of him. In Cunha's absence, we need someone to gamble like that. He had a bit of a header, didn't he, from a set piece, I think, which Pickford made a bit of a decent save from. What did you make to Munetsi's first half, Stu? And the finish that sort of Greg mentioned, it wasn't pleasing for any football purist, but if it's the back of the net, it's good enough for me.
I mean, look at the chances where he's actually got his laces through it and he's skied it wide or he's hit it straight at the keeper. So one to just trickle in when he's at full stretch. It is the cliche of one off the arse, like Greg said, that you do need something like that sometimes. He's the most enigma of a player that we've had for a long time, and even more so than Dendoncker, I suppose, because Dendoncker was annoying because he got in them positions and constantly missed things, but he did do decent other things. Munetsi, he's either excellent at what he does and running around and causing chaos, or he's absolutely abysmal. And the last 2 weeks, he's been terrible. And you look at his debut at Blackburn, it's only Blackburn, but he looked like a colossus and he looked head and shoulders above that level, which he probably is. But he's just a battering ram. And do we need that in the team? We've got no other runners, like that comment said then, so maybe we do. And maybe next to someone like Bellegarde, who is a bit more cultured, who has got a bit of more passing range about him, maybe it does work. But then you've got the problem with Strand Larsen, which is another topic in a sec. But there's something about him that I kind of enjoy. And maybe it's because I'm obviously not the most talented, or was never the most talented footballer in the world, and he kind of gives everyone like that hope. But he plays with a smile on his face, and at least he's not hiding, and at least he's trying something. And that goes a long way for me. I'll kind of accept, technical issues aside. If he's given his best and he's given it all, I know it's a very Brexit thing to say before you even say it yourself, that there's just something about him. I like him. I wouldn't have in an ideal world, he'd be nowhere near this first team, but the situation we're in with the players that we've got, we need a bit of spark, we need a bit of chaos and maybe a bit of a rough diamond, and I think that's what he is.
I can't agree with it. I don't want to disagree with it. We've needed something different in that midfield for a few years now. We've, it's been a pleasure seeing the likes of like Neves and Matinho doing the technical side, but we've dropped points against lower half Premier League sides over the years where we should have picked up points, but we didn't have that sort of alternative option in a Munetsi, did we? And talking about games like Watford at home. I think we lost 2-0 at home to Watford the one year. Flipping out the Huddersfield and Norwich matches where we ended up dropping points, where we didn't have that midfield alternative in the likes of Munetsi. I'm glad that he got his goal. I said off air, I'm disappointed I didn't allow my beard to fight on a couple of games later than it did, because he finally got his goal, which his efforts have rewarded him yesterday. Ed Marshall said, if Munetsi is the answer, I don't want to know the question. It's a tough one because we spent quite a bit of money on him as well. And it does seem, I think, I can't remember who said it on the last episode that I was on, that he looks the epitome of a last-ditch deadline day signing, but he's a decent option for me now, and hopefully in the summer we can fine-tune this side and try and go a lot better next season, because I think who mentioned it just... Joe Green, large chunks of the game, we look solid, just unwilling to get it forward. Vita Pereira has an absolute mammoth task eradicating the culture that the PE teacher has left us. When it got to sort of half-time, Pricey, and the game sort of 1-1, would you have made any changes at half-time yourself? I think I did tweet out not long after a week, otherwise I think that's it was a really poor game from both sides, and changes was needed. I thought Strand Larsen was, his standard Jurgen Stranded Larsen. If we're not creating chances, I thought if we was ever going to utilise Jurgen Strand Larsen yesterday, we needed someone like Rodrigo Gomez on, who wants to beat the fullback and put balls into the box. We've talked about it previously that Strand Larsen is not a Didier Drogba type target man that you can lump balls up to and he can bring it down and create chances on himself. He's not going to be the type of striker that's going to be able to ball carry 30 yards and get a strike away. I feel sorry for him to a degree, because we're not utilising him, but I just don't know how we're going to utilise him unless we literally go to 2 out-and-out wingers and just try and bomb balls in the box to him. But we haven't really got that sort of... I mean, unless you sort of gave Forbes and Rodrigo Gomez free range, just... Right, lads, you've got the ball, sprint at the fullback. So I don't know how he's ever going to become useful in this side, and I was surprised it took Vita Pereira as long as it did to substitute him yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know where to go with him, to be honest. With Strand Larsen, I mean, when we signed him, and remember at the start of the season, he couldn't get past 70 minutes. He was that unfit, and yet he kept having to come off. And like, remember even at the interview he gave to the club. Was it last weekend or recently, in the last few days, he'd said something like, was his family watching him? And he said he'd come off and he was knackered. He said, "Yeah, I've just made a sprint." Like he just done, like he's talking about he did one sprint and that's it. He was fucked completely. So you're right. I think we said it before. Certainly we said it in our group chat that he's only scored like 3 headed goals in the last 2 seasons. So he's not one. No, that either says one of 2 things, doesn't it? He's either not getting the balls in the box for him to score because he is a quote unquote big lad, or he's just not very good at heading the ball. And there was quite a few people around by me yesterday who was getting really, really fed up with him. He was getting right up the skirt. He was, like, every time the ball was coming down, he wasn't winning headers. He didn't look like he was even trying. Like if he wasn't going to win the header, he wasn't making the battle with his marker or centre half in his favour. Body language wasn't great either. He just looked like, I don't know, he's either still massively unfit, which I know he's coming back from injury, but it can't be the case now. He can't be that unfit, or he's just not happy with how he's being utilised in the team. He said that in that interview, that he's hoping, or the team are working on hoping to give him more chances, getting more crosses in the box for him. But is anyone here really confident that he'll win these chances that come in the box? I'm not sure. I mean, he's done well to get the number of goals he's got so far. I mean, he scored some really good fox in the box chances, like you think of Chelsea at home and Brentford away. Really good chances that you have to snap at, and he scored. But I do struggle to think how he gets more goals in this team going forward at the minute. I don't think he's dynamic enough at the minute. He hasn't got pace. It's looking like he hasn't got enough strength to hold off a marker. he can't hold up the ball that well, or seemingly isn't doing it very well lately. So at the minute, I'm a bit struggling with him, and that's why I think was it one game we had Munetsi up front to try and do that role. So and that wasn't great either. So at the minute, I'm really kind of struggling with him. We could put Geddes up front, but then we obviously have to change the style and how we play. So I'm interested to see how it will go for like the remainder of the season because he's on 7 goals. I'm not really sure he'll break past 10 at the way it's going.
Yeah, he's got his work cut out for him because we mentioned that we're not creating him enough service, but he's not really in the right areas. I think there was a couple of times yesterday where we got into like good wide areas in the transition, but he was nowhere near the sort of the last defender when the ball was in and around the box. It was a frustrating performance. I got aggravated, similar to what you mentioned there. Price of the guys around you, he did grate me yesterday quite a bit, Strand Larsen, but we're definitely not utilising him. I think you look at some of the goals that he scored for Celta Vigo and like the YouTube compilations that we've watched previously. A lot of his finishes were sort of instinctive finishes, sort of tap-ins around the 6-yard box, getting in front of defenders, not necessarily with his head. But we make to Strand Larsen. When I put it on the screen here, literally one shot on target, 1 yellow card. It's not the type of stat you want to be reading back from your number 9, is it?
No.
Greg?
You mean you? Oh, Greg, go on.
No, Stu, you go first. I can join in after. Go for it, mate. Go.
No, Dan glitched out, so I was just guessing that he was talking about me. The vanity. What struck me yesterday, you look at that goal that Raul scored for Fulham, and you think, would we put that ball in to Strand Larsen? And the answer is no. And as soon as he went off yesterday, the best cross of the game came in to Wang. And you think, well, this is the problem. Why are they suddenly putting balls into the box when Strand Larsen's off the pitch? It makes no sense, the whole thing. But it is very similar. I mean, you look what happens after Raul came back, and yeah, he wasn't the same because he had half a head. But he had that service wasn't there that he had under Nuno, under Bruno Lage, so it's a very similar situation. We've got the right player at the wrong time again. And like Miguel said to me and you, Dan, when he was on here, he said he's not a Vita Pereira kind of striker. He doesn't play like that. He plays with a fluid front three. And he said, the man himself responded to me on Twitter earlier saying the same thing. We're stuck with him, and it's not going to get any better. It just looks like another bad signing in a bad situation because he was signed under Gary O'Neill. Gary O'Neill messed all that up. And now we're stuck with someone who doesn't fit this system, can't adapt because he hasn't got the attributes to adapt. And it's not his fault really either. And you can't, and I don't blame him for getting pissed off by not running anymore because he like he said in that interview, he can only run so much and he can learn off certain other players and what their markers are that he's going to run from where certain players are on the pitch. But when they do that once and then the next time they do something different or go backwards and sideways again and build possession up, you kind of think, well, why would I constantly keep running when I'm not getting the service? So I can see both ways, but we haven't got an option there because Cunha's made it this way. So we have to play with him and something has to drop. And it might be a case, it might be like Munetsi, where if one thing comes to him and it goes in off his shin or off his shoulder blade or something like that, then fine. And he kicks on from there and he gets a bit of confidence again. But he just looks shot at the minute.
Yeah. Ed Marshall's talked about his chicken and egg, his movement from the first half of the season has stopped, but you can see why when we don't play to his strengths, he's a byline cross target, not a high ball into the box. I want to sort of mention that. I'll come to you in a minute, Greg, about Strand Larsen. Matt Hobbs and Scott Sellers, whoever in the past, when they've been given strong amounts of money to spend on one particular player, it's never come off, and I feel this is going to be another one under Matt Hobbs' sort of tenureship as sporting director or whatever his title is now. We've spent big money on Strand Larsen, and it looks like come the end of the season, he's not going to be the type of profile striker that Vita Pereira is going to want to work with. So it just falls upon another bad one under his tenureship. But then you look at how much involvement did he have in Agbadou, which we haven't spent a big amount of money on. It's a difficult one where Wolves go as a club, because I've said this before, and I'm not a false and apologist in any way. That they've spent money, but when they've spent money on big players, 9 times out of 10, it's been spent really awfully. And I think Strand Larsen might fall under that category, Greg. But like I said earlier, 1 yellow card, 1 shot on target for a number 9. It's not good enough, is it?
No, it's an interesting one. I think the problem you've got with strikers is they come at a premium and attacking players, right? So you're not going to be, it's a different market, it's a different price point to buy a striker or even like an attacking midfielder these days. It's been interesting because I'll put Sarabia to one side, but he's in a similar kind of camp. We've got a real interesting dynamic in the fan base at the moment when it comes to Strand Larsen. There's some people that are very supportive of him, that are like, we're playing wrong for him. He's a good striker. We need him to come good and so on. And then there were fans around me in the South Bank yesterday that were very vocal in terms of his lack of ability and attitude and so on. And I think there's probably a Stu, you've alluded to this, probably a midpoint. But what I decided to do yesterday was kind of watch him quite closely. So, the assumption is he's a 6'4" striker. He should win headers, but he doesn't. Okay, so I go, put that to one side. He can't determine how tall he is. He's born that way. And I found actually that Agbadou would try and ping it into his feet, and then he would try and play off his feet. And again, I don't know if it's just lack of sharpness, lack of confidence. But again, you watch him laying it off. It wasn't going to feet. It wasn't there. And then I go, okay, well, can he does run. He does make the run, but can he get in behind like Cunha can with pace? And the answer is no. And that's not a particularly fast Everton defence, let's be honest. So you kind of go, well, where is it? And like you say, it's these instinctive kind of crosses in there. He can get in front of a man, or he can nick a goal or get something in off that. Now, the problem we've got at the moment is we're not doing that type of cross. We're not bringing in low crosses in. I mean, the amount of times, ain't Nori, and I think he's a wonderfully gifted footballer, but he will not beat a man. He will. And if someone could show me a YouTube video from last night where he's beaten men, and I'll hold my hands up and say, okay, I've missed that. Probably should have had one less beer. But he will run down the line and he will always check back. He will, and I don't know if that's whether he's been coached or that's what he's been asked to do. So, but you look, and again with Semedo, they will go so far and they will cut in, they will come back inside. So we're not actually. So if that's he's a number 9 fox in the box, like you said, Dan, and he's just going to be one that's going to get his toe in and get things in, then we're not playing that football at all. And we've got to have wingers then, or even wing backs that are bombing on and then putting balls in early across the goal in so he can get in front or whatever. We're not doing that. We've got 2 10s and we're going in. We're going inwards. We keep going in. So we're not going to play to his style from what I can see. So then we've got a problem because he won't hold the ball up to the level that we would need him to. He doesn't win balls in the air like Beto was. He would win headers. He didn't win a header. So we've got a problem there. I mean, for me, the game screamed out for Rodrigo Gomez yesterday. And I don't know if he was fully fit, but it was that pace and it was that energy that we needed the second half to bring that forward. And that's where we were missing.
How did you feel, Vitor? How well do you think he played his substitutes yesterday, Stu? I thought there was times in that second half where, considering we were at home, shooting towards the South Bank, not necessarily needing a win, but the fans were sort of demanding we should go for the win. I mentioned earlier, it felt like at times we had a 6-man defence with Andre sitting in front of them. I thought Vitor should have sacrificed Doherty yesterday to bring on someone a lot earlier than he did for either for Rodrigo Gomez or a Guedes or a Hwang, just to give Strand Larsen a bit more of a closer partner to work off. But as you feel, Vitor played at that second half?
Very much the same as the first bit in the frustration sense. It screamed to me that the people on the bench weren't fit, and that he was only going to bring them on in extreme circumstances. So if we were losing and we hadn't got that equaliser, I think then you would have seen Rodrigo Gomez earlier than not at all, and you would have seen maybe Strand Larsen come off earlier than he did. I think there's probably a bit more to it than that, because for all the possession that we had, it was a lot of sideways and backwards, and it was starting to get a bit of a piss take, to be honest. And they said it on Wolves Weekly that, I mean, Tom, I was saying about the amount of times where the games where we've had more possession than the opponent at Molineux this season, the amount of times we've actually lost the game. And you think, yeah, we're not born that way. And to bring Gaga back, like Greg mentioned earlier, but we are a certain type of team, and we've got a certain type of manager, the one that fits this club in this Portuguese bubble that we seem to find ourselves in. So it didn't surprise me, but I think you are looking at, if Rodrigo Gomes is fully fit, he's coming on at least 70 minutes, because until Sarabia came on, which I know you're trying to avoid mentioning that our great game potential game changer's name, because I thought, I was talking to Matt about this in the George Wallace afterwards, that for me, I thought he stretched the game a bit more. I thought he gave, for however annoying he is and how slow he is, he does have something about him. And I thought he was actually played well yesterday. I know we come to the shot that blazed ridiculously far wide, but still, he was the only one with a bit of spark and something there. And the free kick wasn't that far wide either when I watched it on Match of the Day again this morning. So you look at the ones available to him. I wasn't too bothered with it, really. I thought it was getting the point was more valuable than going for the win in the situation that we find ourselves.
That's what frustrated me a lot yesterday, 'cause I think when I saw that Ipswich had lost away to Palace at 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever, before the game, I would have took a point last night. But seeing Everton in the flesh yesterday and how poor they were, and just no sort of emphasis or trying to find some sort of impetus to try and take the game to him, that second half really, really aggravated me. I'm not sure if I know Vita Pereira said after Bournemouth that Bellegarde had a bit of a knock. I didn't understand why Bellegarde came off yesterday unless there was sort of an injury or a bit of a strain, or he was in the red zone or whatever. I thought Sarabia and Bellegarde would have been the players to make something happen out of nothing yesterday if you would have kept Bellegarde on at the same time. Andre did signal to the bench about a few minutes before Tommy Doyle came on for him. So I'm thinking that might have been like a forced change for Vita Pereira. I didn't understand the Tommy Doyle substitution at the time, but I think that must have been just due to Andre signalling. But how did you feel, Price, that second half played out? I think Everton had the better chances. I think Beto had a good strong save from Sarr down to his left. I think Charlie Alcaraz had a blocked effort that looked destined to head towards goal. But how did you think the second half played out?
Well, we dominated it, certainly possession-wise. I think the stats have us at like something like 69, 70%, something like that for possession. Unfortunately for us, it didn't actually translate into too many clear-cut chances for us. That the save from Sarr was great, considering the fact that he hadn't had, he wasn't overly tested for most of the game. Blaswell said this was one of his better performances where he's had to keep his concentration for a long time, nothing to do, and when he's been called upon, he made a great save. So fair play to that. But from their point of view, I think that we had the Sarabia chances, didn't we? We had his free kick, and his obviously the shot on which, certainly from where I was looking, you were just praying for a bit of that curl to take it in the far corner, which obviously there wasn't any. But I think for me, like you say, it was a tale of two teams who were just almost happy for a point. To be honest, Everton, they don't care really. They're safe. They're happy. We're pretty much there as well. The point against the team who've certainly since Moyes has been put back in charge, they've really motored away from the relegation zone. They've really just put their foot down and made a mockery of what King D was doing beforehand. But for me, just second half, the whole game, I think we will have to move on to talk about him really. But Andre was I was just marveling at him for the whole game. He was doing as usual, where certainly towards in that second half, when he'd make a tackle, he'd celebrate it. He'd like just give it the big one every time he'd make a quality tackle. He's one of them just crazy mad Brazilian central defensive midfielders who Just he's one of them just loving and they celebrate a tackle like it was a goal. And I find it funny like how narratives can change over the course of the season. So I remember like us all saying at the time we got him when O'Neill had him and he was on the bench. That, why have we got him? Why we didn't even need him, etc. etc. But obviously, as situations change over the course of the season, with Lamina ending up being a prick, then Andre comes in and he settled in, and now you can just see why he's Brazil or should be like in the Brazil team effectively. He is fantastic. He's showing probably now why Hobbs saw him and thought, I don't care if we don't need him in the minute, I'm going to get him because he will go to an elite club. He will go to like one of the big boys. Then when it might be this summer, you don't know, but he's not going to be here for long, Andre, especially putting in the performances that he did, not just last night, but the performances that he's shown in recent times. He's going to be an absolute superstar. Andre will, and we've got two of them in every central midfield. We've got him and João Gomez. It's mental. It's absolutely mental. We've got like two players who are going to be like mainstays in the Brazil squad now going forward in their respective positions. So at the minute he's my favourite player at the minute. I just think he's got a bit of everything about him. You probably, I know João Gomez doesn't have too much of a goal threat, but João Gomez gets forward a bit more than what Andre does. But for what the role that Andre does for our team is golden at the minute. It's like, especially now that Cunha's been a bit of a prick, then Andre's first name on the team sheet, I just think he's fantastic.
Yeah, I think João Gomez has got more of a well-rounded game than what Andre has, but I think the strongest qualities that Andre can do in that sort of number 6 role is better than anything that João Gomez can do. And I think, like Ed Marshall just said there, I think Andre walks into any other team in the world. He is playing that well at the moment. He's another one that we're going to struggle to keep at the end of the season. We talked about Ryan Nori earlier. I think he would have been one of the first names I'd expect to leave in the summer, but he's not really played himself into anyone's transfer targets the way he's been playing recently, and he's sort of lacking to try and beat fullbacks. I think Kirk has his head and shoulders ahead of him for the likes of Liverpool when they look to replace like Andy Robertson. I'm not sure who's going to come in for Ryan Nori. I think he's probably peaked for his chance at a big European side now. He might end up going to someone like the Europa League or something, but yeah, he's got a long way back unless he starts improving his game, Ryan Nori. How impressed were you yesterday, Greg, with Andre? Obviously, the stat was Andre won possession in the midfield third 11 times during the game last night, a record in the Premier League this season. This was on the back of Andre and Matheus Cunha being named in the latest Brazil national squad, with João Gomez missing out, having been named in the provisional list.
Yeah, I mean, he was excellent, and I think it was the most obvious thing, and the fact he got man of the match last night was, to be honest, inevitable. The only thing I spotted is he obviously was booked, and I don't know if Vitor's still got a bit of nervousness around, what happened with Gomez getting the second booking against Arsenal, and maybe, yeah, I mean, he covered a hell of a lot of ground as well, so there might have been a bit of a duality in the behind him coming out. But yeah, I think, listen, he'd been linked with Liverpool in a previous transfer window, so he'd been on the radar. And some of the podcasts, the Brazilian podcasts that I listened to when he came over, just talked about what an incredible talent he was in the 6, in front of the back 4, taking the ball off the back 4, and also covering. And he's done an excellent job. I think what we're seeing is a manager who understands what Andre is as a player and sets a team that allows him to be successful. And that's what we're seeing, and we're reaping the benefits of that. And I think, again, like it's been said, we just have to enjoy him while we've got him. We know he's not going to be here, for a long time, but he's here and he's making sure that we look a much better side and a much solid side as a result of that. And yeah, the longer for us, and hopefully we can build around them as opposed to build to replace them. But yeah, he was absolutely brilliant.
Is it a resounding Andre for man of the match last night, Stu?
the easiest yes of the year. He's just different class, isn't he? I mean, I just checked, and he's 23, so he's not a young unknown. He's got a lot of experience under his belt for such a youngish age, and the fact that we got him for effectively pittance is quite remarkable, really. But you'd think that what's the catch? And so far, there doesn't seem to be one. He doesn't seem to be a troublemaker. He's always he's by definition doing the dirty work, doing it well and loving it, and yet he's playing for Wolves in a relegation fight and not hiding every week. And then you look at that yesterday, and he was dead on his feet, and understandably so. He was absolutely incredible, and he was probably a goal away from a 10 out of 10 performance.
Yeah, he did have that one effort in the first half that went screaming into the North Bank, but you can't knock him for trying, can you? Price, was Andre your man of the match by a long way?
Yeah, easily. It's not even close. And then I was just thinking, how many players can be that good and have just a mustache? So I can't think of one.
Did Paul Cook just have one moustache, Greg? You're old enough to remember Paul Cook in his prime.
Cheers for that, mate. Yeah. There was a few we had. Derek Mainfield was another one, centre half. He had a cracking tash. So yeah, we've had a few over the years. A few that spring to mind, but yeah. I'd say.
Yeah, let's all go for Andre, man of the match. Who else sort of stood out? Because obviously Maximus Wright is going with his weekly Jose Sarr man of the match. He did make two big saves last night. I think the one from Beto in the second half probably won us the point because they never really pushed on. There was that concerning moment where Everton had a corner in injury time, and I was disputing reality with the bloke sitting next to me. I said, I've seen this movie enough times to know what's coming from this corner, but thankfully we kept it out. But who else stood out for you, Greg, in that match last night apart from Andre?
He's the standout. I think Nelson did well until he gets to the final third, which is the same story probably for the last 5 seasons generally. I think there was a lot of solid. I think Agbadou changes our defence, and I think we've talked about it earlier on. He just comes in, slots in, and he brings the confidence because he's got the pace to cover, even with strapped up legs. He's still our fastest defender, fastest centre half. And he covers the line, keeps it calm, and we see a much better performance at the back of that. So yeah, I think for me that was it. I think Sarr did okay. I mean, when he doesn't have his mad 5 minutes where he goes off on a mad one, then he's generally pretty solid. I'd like him to be a bit more dominant in the box, but he's never going to be like that. That's just the way he is. So I think that was it for me. I think there was a lot of 6 out of 10s, really. I think that's probably the way of describing it, where we did okay without really kind of setting a stall out. And I think for me that was it. I'm going to leave Sarabia to the side because I think we'll probably come on to that. So that's another conundrum. But I think other than that, I think we were solid and played well without really kind of pushing the boat.
Yeah, I thought there was 2 players, especially in that second half last night, that was just too safe. We talked about too many sideways passing. We mentioned Agbadou there. I thought he was brilliant for Egerton, and he was, like I said, strapped up from his Achilles all the way up to his gluteus maximus. I thought he was absolutely outstanding last night. There was times when he was in possession of the ball, and Beto didn't even want to press him at all because he was that confident on the ball. There was a moment in the first half, I think it was, where Agbadou was in the central area. Totti was about a few yards away, and literally Agbadou was literally shouting, "You're supposed to be like running in that direction for me to play towards you." Because, like I said, some of these players they're too safe, and that was the thing that really grated me last night. I thought there was too many players that was too safe, and whether it's just because of the season that we're having and lack of confidence, some players not being informed, but a lot of them seemed happy with the draw last night. And for a team like Wolves at home shooting towards the safe bank in the second half, I thought it was really disappointing that we didn't take it to Everton more in that second half, because I thought Everton were one of the poorest sides I've seen at Molineux in recent years. Last night they had nothing really about them in the build-up play. Defensively, we never really worked them. I think we only had the one shot on target in the second half, and that was like Strand Larsen from a really tight angle. I was just really disappointed with the manner that we settled for the draw last night, because I think another win yesterday would have took us like 8 points clear, 9 with the goal difference with the results that went our way, and just like it seems like another similar to the Fulham game that we've dropped points instead of gaining them. But yeah, let's talk about Pablo Sarabia. I'm going to come to you once I've had more. It ain't even a rant, because I didn't think he was as bad as the social media portrayed him to be last night. Obviously, he had the free kick, which Jordan Pickford was getting nowhere near to if he'd just crept in. That one shot was poor. I think for a player who's on 100 grand to 400 grand a week, whoever you hear rumours from, whatever he's on a week, is that shot was not good enough. I think the bit that really grated everyone was that sort of that segment that he had on our right wing, where he got a bit of a shirt pull, and he flung his arms up like he'd been poleaxed, and there might have been enough for a foul, but Greg, I see you shaking your head. Take it on from here, from there.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. And again, it's been an interesting one in the same way as Strand Larsen. There's been a lot of noise around Sarabia today, and I know there's some people that have come out and really supported him and backed him and said, and I get that. I think for me, where I sit with Sarabia is he does some good stuff, and the stuff that he can do that there is no one else in the team that can do, with the exception of maybe Cunha, but he's not around, so don't worry about him. So he becomes more important because he will try and play a killer ball, or he'll try and chip it over the defender. So he will try the difficult stuff. Now, what that does mean is that a lot of the time that doesn't come off, which does make him look bad. I think where I get frustrated sometimes with him is that we are in a situation where they're playing at the end with kind of two defensive banks, and they're looking to just counter. Yeah, very similar to actually Fulham, although Fulham were much more effective on the counter. But he kept dropping deep, and I know it's like, I want the ball, give me the ball, but actually you're just pulling the whole area of football back up the pitch towards our goal. And what you want him to do is get further in and be in and around. And I think what really frustrated me was the incident that you talked about, Dan, where not only did he throw himself on the floor, right, he then proceeded to stay there, right, and then have a chat with the we're trying to win the game, right? We're trying to do it. Okay, he might have thought it was a foul. I didn't think it was a foul watching it from the South Bank, and it was quite close.
Sorry, Greg, didn't we actually have a throw-in in that moment, but he was still too busy moaning? He would have had literally the whole right wing to run into if he wouldn't have been moaning.
But he was still on the floor, still gesticulating. He wasn't hurt. He was just frustrated, okay? And I think that, for me, at that time, we need players to get in on it. I also think that at that point, we needed a greater intensity. We've talked a lot about Rodrigo Gomez, and he would bring that. I think for me, that against Everton yesterday, our issue was the tempo. To break down a defensive team that's got two banks, we need to go and pull them out of place. But you're not going to do that by slowly going side to side. You've got to go faster. And I think that's the other problem that we had. And I think, and like I said, for me, it's a conundrum because, yes, you can see there's talent there. Listen, you don't play for the teams he's played for by being shit. You just don't. But then for me, as the experienced player, I just feel he needs to contribute a little bit more. And that's where I'm at. I mean, I read his interview in the programme last night, and you can see he's a good club man. He will always go and, clap the fans, and you can see his kind of heart's in the right place, and you can see he's there. And he's obviously well liked by the management and by the fans, by his other teammates. And I think Semedo talked about him in the post-game interview. So you can see that it's there. You just wish you could just do that little bit more. And I think, and maybe that's, he's 32. Maybe he hasn't got the legs. Maybe it's settles better being, not in the Premier League where it's obviously hustle and bustle and more physical. I just, for me, he's a bit of an enigma. The Villa game, he was excellent. I thought he played really well that game. But then it's like when he's off, he's really off. And I don't think he was off last night, but it was just like, can you just do a little bit more? You can see it's there. And I think that's the frustration, is that you can see there's a player there that should be able to contribute a bit more to the game.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned it earlier. Pablo Sarabia is probably one of one or two with Cunha that have got that invention to see passes before players are even making the runs and whatever. But you just want a bit more. And similar to Conor Cody at Leicester, when you're earning over 100 grand a week, I expect you to be coming into the training ground and with a smile on your face and clapping the fans arm and away, win or lose.
Oh, yeah.
Price, what did you make to Sarabia? I think you only briefly mentioned it with his shot that nearly ended up in the Steve Ball lower.
I thought he was one of our better players on the pitch, to be honest. He is strange in a way that, I think was it the season before we bought him, he scored 17 goals for Sporting, and you think, well, obviously he's not even come close to that for us. You think how's this player managed to score 17 goals? But you can see he's got an intelligent mind, and he has got, whilst he hasn't got world-class technical ability, he's got very good technical ability. Obviously, where he struggles is he's not quick, he's not strong. Two things of which high up on requirements in the Premier League, unfortunately. By and large, that's the requirement. So you've really got to be the inventive stuff that he does do has to come off really for him to be noticed. I don't like the stuff what Greg was talking about. He's throwing himself on the floor, to the detriment of both himself and the team. That being said, I did think, like I say, he was one of our better players. Second half, it's just for me with Sarabia, it's just never really got going for him at Wolves, unfortunately. And there's many reasons why. He's had three managers since he's been here. He's been consistently in and out of the team. I don't think he's the longest run in the team we had was when we were down to playing the children up front when O'Neill was here. To be fair, that doesn't sound great because that means he's playing on necessity rather than anything else at the time. But apart from that, he's never really had a long stint in the team. His output has been patchy, I suppose. So, look, he's going to go in the summer anyway. There's no way we're keeping him on the mega bucks that he's earning. It'd be nice to see a bit more from him in the last few games of the season. Hopefully, he can impact the games that we've got left. Like I say, he's an intelligent player, as Maxwell says there. He is intelligent. I'm just not sure that the team itself is built up to support him, but that's not necessarily his problem.
Yeah, I think unless you've got a striker who's rapid with high acceleration, I don't know how Pablo Sarabia really utilises the centre forward with the strikers that we've got available at Wolves. Because like I mentioned, he has got that vision to see passes before players make the runs and whatever. But like I said, it all goes back to him being one of the highest earners for me, Stuart. I know you laugh at it, but I just think he needs to be offering more than what he's doing for the salary that he's taking home every year. Because if you take away his monthly salary, we could paint those Molyneux bollards every season.
I mean, what they earn, I don't really care. It's their own stupid fault for agreeing to.
Well, if you don't care what they earn, you don't come to me in the summer when Jeff brings the season ticket prices because you'll pay the same again, and these players will keep on earning more and more. We're talking about weekly salaries. We aren't even talking about how much you earned as an appearance fee for last night for that shot nearly in the Steve Ball lower. but yeah, you ain't bothered about how much they earn. Sure, you carry on because I am.
Just give me a little carrot, don't you? Just give me a little nibble. Bite you. Sarabia is the most guaranteed 20 goal involvements in half a season MLS player in the world. He's not a Premier League player. He never has been. We all saw that within 20 minutes of his debut that he can't run. He's too small. He hasn't. But then you have the magic moments like the Spurs game where he does that out of nowhere, and you think, okay, you've clearly got something. And like Pricey said, he's obviously got goals in lesser leagues in the past. But at his age, you'd think he was 37, the way he moves. And he's not 37. He's just not very quick, and he's not very mobile. And that little strop yesterday was right in front of me, and I just laughed at it. You think, well, what are you doing? You're more than old enough. You're more experienced enough to know better. But some of the reaction today has been outrageously bad. Like, people have made their minds up on players, which is great, fine, whatever. Do what you want to do. I mean, I'll call Sarabia out for when he shit. I thought he didn't do anything wrong. So he was a solid 7 out of 10 yesterday for me. No one talks about Jose Sarr today because he didn't make a mistake, which is fine. But Sarabia, for me, other than the shot, like I said, I thought he actually offered a little bit more than what was on the pitch at the time. Yeah. And he probably should, if he hadn't been brought on through necessity through injury, we might have got a bit more out of Munetsi in the first place. So it was just one of them things. Who'd you bring on in that situation? He doesn't obviously trust Tommy Doyle in his new Beckham role yet. So you play with what you've got. And I thought compared to what he's done in the past, I thought he was fine yesterday. I thought he was a solid 6.57 out of 10 if you go on Football Manager ratings. It was nothing more than that for me. I just think that people have made their minds up and they're not going to give anyone a fair shake if they don't like him. And when he does stupid things like that shot, stay in your lane. When he does things like that shot that's so bad, and then he throws himself on the floor like a child, then he deserves criticism, and rightly so.
Taylor's got it spot on, and I'm just... You saw my facial reaction as you spun that spiel that you just did, talking about how people are just like ingrained and they won't give players a chance. That was you with Daniel Podence, because Tony's got it right here. When Dan sees Sarabia, he sees not Podence, and that's what it is. We've let a better player go in Daniel Podence and kept a 37-year-old looking man who's in our top 3 earners, and that's where it unsettles me.
The problem with Podence, though, and like you just said, Stu, not Podence, Sarabia, sorry, that's you doing send me on different direction. The problem with Sarabia is he does have that moment, which makes it even more frustrating in a weird way. So you look at that goal against Spurs and you go, how the hell's he scored that? And then you then go, well, hold on a minute. There is that ability there, which then brings that level of frustration out. You know, we're not going to think of Munetsi as whipping in a 35-yarder into the top corner, right? So we kind of set our bar there. But when Sarabia does do stuff like that, and you go, hold on a minute, that's a great player. That's a level of ability and skill that's there to then only see it once or twice a season, if you're lucky, brings that frustration out. And as you say, he was solid enough. He was solid enough yesterday. But it's just that, can we get another magic moment out of him? Can we get to it, particularly with Cunha, can we get 2 or 3 of those out of him between now and the end of the season, because it could make all the difference.
But I think that magic moment is just that. I think it is a moment. I don't think if he was as good as them moments say, and he did it every week, he wouldn't be here. Yeah. And he'd be nowhere near this place. But I think he's got that skill, but he's never going to be consistent enough to do it. Yeah. So it's a frustration for us and for him, I suppose.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I think you just look at the caliber of player he is and the physicality and the intensity of the Premier League. He just doesn't suit. He's never suited the Premier League. You look at Anthony tearing up trees at Real Betis now. It just shows how the Premier League is just a different animal to the Spanish or the Portuguese league. It's just so much quicker. I think I watched an interview with Ruben Amorim earlier on today, and he was talking about the athleticism in the Premier League. It ain't just the pace and the strength players have. It's that energy to not only win the second ball but win the header and then do all the things with the ball with pace and strength. He's just not suited for the Premier League. Pablo Sarabia, he never has been for me. I think he's good for a team like ours when the game's a bit stretched and against teams who've got like 2 low blocks against us, when he's got that time to actually find players. But if he hasn't got those bodies running ahead of him, like Mario Lemina was for that Tottenham winner, I think he's always going to come unstuck in a team like ours. It's like me, guys. He's absolutely brilliant technically, but he's just physically just not cut out for that level of football. It happens to the best of us. You didn't appreciate Daniel Podence, and this is where we are with Pablo Sarabia now, and he'll be another player that you throw under the bus because you can't appreciate a technical player. But
he'll follow the Podence career path now. I'll definitely see him. We can see him in Saudi next year.
Good luck learning Arabic, Pablo. Speaking of another player who Wolves fans are very love and hate at the moment is the Brazilian Matheus Cunha, who was in the stands last night. And Stu had a bit of social media interaction.
Someone had to
fun
do it.
On earlier on in the week when after the Premier League had posted that his Matheus Cunha strike, not Stu's strike, away to Liverpool was up for the Premier League goal of the month. Matheus Cunha commented for the real fans with the love hands emoji. Stu at Stu J4Z on Twitter /X tweeted, "Wonder how many real fans there are left. What a twat this bloke has turned into." Can you elaborate on that a bit more for us, Stu, and how one of the leading sports media personas out there like that tweet, which we won't throw under the bus with nationally?
I mean, you go and find the likes. You can search it for yourself. I don't think.
I don't think you can on X anymore, can you?
Can't anymore, Stu. Musketeers took that feature away.
No. Well, there we are. Everyone's. We all know that everyone's true feelings on that.
Let's play devil's advocate for a minute. How can possibly Matheus Cunha feel that he's being hard done by this fan base currently? Not just after he's sending off at Bournemouth, but the way that he handled himself in the January transfer window, getting a new bumper contract with a really low release clause. How does he feel hard done by? Was there a move in January that he felt Wolves had blocked under no circumstances, which we're rightfully able to do so? We've got 2.5 years left on his deal and we're in a relegation battle, which not only do we need to stay in the league, but financially it's huge for the club, keeps people in jobs. How can he possibly feel hard done by? Try and think of a devil's advocate reason why he feels it could be hard done by.
I mean, the only thing, and there was people in the responses to that tweet, which, I mean, it's me. I don't really care. That's why I literally put where I sit at Molineux in my Twitter header. So there you can come and find me if you want. Who cares?
Lynch him. Throw him off the fucking top of the Steve Ball for all I care.
I mean, how heavy I am now, we can't afford that damage.
Make sure he lands on Sarabia.
But the only thing that makes any sense is clearly like if all of this stuff go to his head and he thinks he's untouchable. I can't think of any devil's advocate way that he can realistically. I mean, if he's trying to be funny and like taking the piss a little bit, I don't think he is. It doesn't make any sense. Like this real fans thing, it's not. He's mentioned it since as well, and it's like he said it in the his signing video. He was hinting at then I'm going to keep you up, and then I'll be gone. In lesser words, you can all read what you want from what he was saying. I genuinely think he's gone insane, and I think it's something's happened to him when they let him go back to Brazil. I mean, you look at the timeline of things, what have happened since they let him go back to Brazil to calm down family issue, whatever. When he came back from there, you look at all the videos and stuff that the club put out and stuff like that. Ever since then, he doesn't seem to have the same kind of interactions with the other players. I know we can kind of amateur assess the body language and all that kind of stuff, but you look at him and you think, well, he hasn't really got many allies there. And when his best friend's Dan Bentley in all these things that they put out, and he was one of the ones trying to calm him down in the tunnel last week at Bournemouth. It's all a bit strange. He just looks like he's gone completely insane. He's gone too big for his boots, and he believes his own hype. And I genuinely think that's what it is. And he thinks that anything said bad about him shouldn't be happening because he's the best. I think that's the only explanation I can come up with.
Because it was the second time in like the matter of the week, wasn't it? After his goal at Bournemouth, where he came out with for the real fans. Just a quick caption competition there for your prize. What's Cunha's wife saying to him in that picture?
What is the release clause again? Yeah, I mean, I think it's fully that. I think he's given off, as we've always said, he's given off proper main character syndrome. He stinks a bit. You can see the stink lines coming off all of his body parts. Main character syndrome. He does seem like, or clearly, he's the type of guy who's general demeanour around the club is that I'm better than this place, and I cannot wait to leave. And as soon as someone like flutters their eyelids at me, a big club, and everyone seems to think it's Arsenal, then I should be allowed to go. And it's that, unfortunately, there are player players at that point there where they force these things through, and they don't like it when they don't get their own way straight away. I think I think he's I think he's turned recently. I think he's turned into a bit of a negative attitude around the club, unfortunately, and things like this exacerbate it. So he's normally seen sometimes in the media, smiley, happy guy, and then literally he just turns like on sixpence. We saw it at Ipswich, where he's grabbing the glasses and breaking glasses, and then we see him at Bournemouth, where he just literally, he's gone mad, literally gone mad on the pitch, and off the pitch seemingly, and trying to get back on the pitch. It's mental, it's crazy, and it's a good job really that the bottom three are as shit as they are, because if we really needed Cunha to dig us out of a hole, and he's just got himself banned for the second time this season, this could potentially be 4, 5, maybe 6 games. He could have actually like relegated us potentially if we needed him, and we're supposed to be grateful. We've allegedly, as the story goes, we've allowed him to sign this new contract on the biggest wage that we've ever given a player in our history. We've compromised to probably his agents by giving them the minimum release fee clause, which is way lower than what we all would have wanted and expected. And then he literally goes and repays us by doing that against Bournemouth. So how can he, as Stu's alluded to, how can he expect the fans not to be in the tiniest bit annoyed at him, given his actions? And this is a guy who supposedly was on the list of potential captains for the club as well. It's mental. This guy, if you can imagine him wearing the captain's armband and doing that against Bournemouth. So for all this real fans shit he's putting on Instagram, I think it's a bit rich, and I think it's a bit hard for the majority of Wolves fans to swallow. Yeah, he's still gonna have his supporters. People are gonna still support him, and that's fine. That's their prerogative, and more power to them. But when you look at the bigger picture at the minute, I think it's really tainted him. He was, up until this point, he was a really big fan favourite with probably the overwhelming majority of Wolves fans. But that coupled with him just walking around the pitch lots of times in the games, gets his bit of quality, gets his goal, walks off, thinks he's still the big I am, and then repays us by doing what he did against Bournemouth in the general attitude. I think unfortunately it's gonna leave Wolves with a bit of a sting in the tail for a lot of people, and a lot of people won't really look past that.
I think that's another thing that aggravated the fan base after the Bournemouth game, and this might be where he needs to have a bit more of a conversation if he isn't looking after his social media. If one of his social media team has decided to post that goal at Bournemouth after he's just got sent off and pretty much costed the game, he needs to be giving them some guidance on how to play on his social media after games. Because I think that grated a lot of people, the fact that his social media posted his goal at Bournemouth after he got sent off, and then commenting for the real fans and whatever. But didn't really want to spend much time talking about Cunha on tonight's episode, because he's suspended for at least the minimum the next 2 games. I think there'll probably be an announcement tomorrow or Tuesday. I think he's got till tomorrow to actually respond to the charge that's been thrown against him. And the third game is the West Ham game at home, and then the 4th game's Ipswich. I think it's going to be at least 4 games that he's suspended for, which concluded yesterday's. But what was your thoughts, Greg, on his, for the real fans' behaviour?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because obviously he's got some very passionate fans on social media. But I think for me, there needs to be a distinction between ability and contribution and behaviour. And I think people kind of go, well, you have to accept the behaviour because he's scored all these goals and he's done all this amazing stuff. And I don't agree with that personally. I believe you can turn around and say Matheus Cunha is a wonderfully gifted footballer who scored some incredible goals for us and contributed massively to us this season. But in the same breath, you can also say he's also hot-headed, irrational, and has actually contrived to cause us a lot of unnecessary stress in that through some petulant actions at least 2 occasions this season. And I think both can be true. I don't think you have to be like, he can only be one. No, I think you can have both. And I think that's it. And I think the reality, and they talked about the reality is if he's not careful, he won't get this move that he's been, I agree. I think it was Arsenal that were talking to him. I think that's the case. And certainly watching them today, I think they definitely need a player of that type. But you're going to taint. You talked about Aït Nouri earlier, Dan. You can play yourself out of transfers as well as playing yourself into.
That's what came out in the media earlier in the week, wasn't it? Apparently, Mikel Arteta now has his reservations about Cunha's character after that sending off and earlier on in the season with the Ipswich situation.
Yeah. If you're going to be out suspended for 7-8 games a season, right? That's, you're looking up towards getting towards a third, quarter of the season that your player that you're going to be paying a lot of money for is not available. And that's not good. And if he starts to build a rap sheet, the suspensions are only going to go one way, and that's higher. So I think that's the issue. And the reality is he's now starting to taint himself, very much so, and because of that behaviour. And I think sometimes you have to leave the social media to one side, even though it's frustrating and annoying. Because, like you say, Danny, might have someone who's doing it in the agency that's just putting out all his best clips because he wants to keep them keep the noise there. So I'm kind of leaving that to one side. But if you just look at it, he has had the armband a few occasions this season, obviously through substitutions and that. But, he wants to be this force. He wants to be but you've got to follow through with your behaviours and behaving. And it's petulant stuff. It wasn't like a last-minute tackle, a last-man tackle or something like that. He's got frustrated because people are closing him down. Well, if they talk about you all the time, they are going to close you down. They are going to double man mark you because that's what they're going to do. So you've got to adjust to deal with that. And he doesn't appear to. You see it all the time. The arms go up. It's the ref. It's this. It's frustrating. And you can see it. And to be honest, if I was any opposition manager now, I'd be like, right, take it in turns, lads. First 5 or 10 minutes, nothing silly. Just nudge him. Just give him a light tap, and you'll just watch him. He'll be off his game. He may still score a worldie like he did at Bournemouth, but you can just see that kind of pattern of behaviour because they know now if you wind him up, he's gonna react.
Yeah, the thing that sort of been suggested on the back of that Bournemouth red card was they'd asked to be substituted towards the end of the 90 minutes. Obviously, the game went on into extra time, and having not been substituted, and the fact that he didn't want to get injured coming up to this Brazilian international tournament, international break that's coming up, that he's got himself sent off because it's like I said, it made no sense that Kirk has done minimal to aggravate him into that situation. It was moments away from penalties. If he's chosen to get himself sent off just so he's a bit more fresher for the Brazil squad, it just shows that he's just got no intention of looking after this club.
Though, is it? It's the all the stuff in the tunnel after.
Yeah,
getting sent off. I mean, putting the craziness of that to one side for a sec. Okay, you got yourself sent off. Then why have you now? Because the reality is, it's not the three game ban. We know that. This is now on top because once again, it's all this hoo-ha after the event. He's sent off. The ref's not going to change his mind, right? It's done. So then starting all the fracas and everything down in the tunnel just makes it worse, And I think, like you say, I think the problem he's got is he's going to work himself out of a deal at this rate because there'll be, I don't care who you are, 62 or whatever it is, the release clause, 62.5 million, whatever it is. That's a lot of money, right, for any club. So are they going to be wanting to make that investment for something that's now looking a bit more? Yeah, okay, the lad's got skill, he's got talent, and that. But is he going to get sent off for us in a big game, whether that's in Europe or something else, or is he just going to be petulant?
You guys play Football Manager more than me. How does this £62.5 million release clause work for those who aren't fully in tune? Can someone offer £30 million with the rest in instalments?
Depends on the clause.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sort of level of details haven't come out, have they? With this 62.
You won't get that level of detail. No. I mean, most transfers now, are paid in instalments, particularly anything of any size. Which is why you see a lot of this Macquarie, I think it is, the bank.
Yeah, the Australian.
And everyone has loans against. That's what that is. They're loaning against those future instalments. So I think everyone knows about Liverpool with Jota, and they were paying about 10p a week for him. So I think it'll be that the package. So they will agree to pay £62.5 million over a period of time. It's very rare for clubs now to pay up front. The Saudis might. I mean, they've got that much money; they don't really care probably. But most of them will pay it in a set amount of instalments, generally over a 2 or 3 year period.
Yeah, it'll be over the length of the contract, and it'll be amortized that way. So all pay for instance. So it's like every like Greg said, every transfer is exactly the same now. So we'll get the money eventually, and the vampires in Australia get all the money and the interest.
Yeah, but that gives Faust and their excuse not to spend big in the summer down here if a club comes in and it's only instalments.
It's a ready-made excuse.
Yeah, which I'm hoping young Josh from the Fancast is right that he goes to Saudi in the summer, because they're likely to pay £62.5 million up front, aren't they? And they'll give Cunha a big wage. He turns 26 in May. Be interested to see where he does go. I would have happily have drove him to his desired destination if he'd behaved in an impeccable way after scoring that winner against the Albion last season and keeping us up this season. But similar to Amina, he's really made it unsavoury to chant his name. But Price did state that we do need Cunha, don't we, in these games? And the fact that he's suspended, he has really put us in a difficult position, because I know we're only 6 points off safety, but yesterday I think he probably would have been the catalyst for us to get those extra 2 points. I think he would have had an impact in that Fulham home game. But yeah, the results did go for us this weekend. Just to reiterate that Leicester lost to Chelsea 1-0 away early this afternoon. Ipswich lost 1-0 away to Crystal Palace, and Southampton lost 3-1 to Liverpool. So that leaves Wolves 6 points there on the screen, as you can see, with a better goal difference of 13. I was thinking about this earlier. You look at the 4 games against Chelsea and Everton. -6 to Chelsea, -4 to Everton. That would leave us on -9 if we hadn't got slapped by them two over them 4 games. We're only 10 points behind West Ham, but they play Newcastle at home tomorrow night. But you look at the fixtures coming up for all those 3 teams: Wolves, Ipswich and Leicester. Leicester have got Man United next Sunday. Ipswich are at home to Nottingham Forest. We travel away to Southampton. Leicester's next 6 games: away to Man City, home to Newcastle, away to Brighton, home to Liverpool. I watched the majority of the Chelsea-Leicester game today, and Leicester huffed and puffed, but they never really caused... I was going to say Roger Sanchez, but that's the DJ, isn't it? Robert Sanchez, the Chelsea goalkeeper, any problems? Ipswich fixtures, home to Bournemouth, home to Nottingham Forest, away to Bournemouth. Then they've got us, away to Chelsea, and then home to Arsenal. It's these next 3 games: away to Southampton, home to West Ham, away to Ipswich. If we're not comfortably sort of double figures away from Ipswich, I fear for us, because you look at the last sort of 5 fixtures, the fixtures really turn favourable to Ipswich, whereas our fixtures tend to go quite tough. I think it's like Brighton away, Crystal Palace, Brighton at home, Crystal Palace away, Brentford at home. The last 3 games, you don't want to be going into those last 3 games needing points, because you'd hope sort of Brighton, Brentford and Crystal Palace are on the beach by that point, but Brighton are going to be pushing towards European places. But based on yesterday's point, Greg, how confident are you out of 10 that we'll be safe come the end of the season?
I'd say 8, and that's I mean, the reality is we should get enough points, and like you say, Dan, I'd like it to be wrapped up before. I think if we can take 4 out the next 2, right, then should be. I mean, Southampton we should, but God, this is us, and anything's possible. But I think if we can take 4 out of that, I think going into the Ipswich, if they've obviously lost their 2, I think I think there's too much of a gap. Then, we're looking at 10 points. I think that would I think that would kill them off, to be honest. They may still go for us, but I think for me that would be a big enough gap that I'd be confident then we'd be at, we'd be close. 27 points. I think we're there or thereabouts.
Yeah, 5 points from the next 3 games. If we picked up a point away at Ipswich, I think should be enough. But where are you mentally, Stu? with Wolves.
Leicester are doomed. I mean, Leicester are shocking. They've got nothing at all, despite being so competent. And we know the manager situation and all that. Don't need to go into that. But Leicester, I'm not worried about. Ipswich, I think it all comes down to that game between us. I think I'm in no doubt that this could happen, that they could beat us there, and then that closes the gaps to 3 points, puts a bit of pressure on us. You look at them games, we're inevitably going to lose to Southampton on Saturday because that's what we do.
We don't know, do we? We've won the last 5 on the bounce there, but
yeah, exactly.
I'm totally with you. Like, it is the classic things. It is the classic thing for Wolves to get beat by Southampton, who I think lost the last 87 consecutive games. If you look at how bad they are in the league, but
we have got. That's what I'm about to say.
But if we get beat by Southampton next week, then we deserve to go down, probably, don't we?
I mean, Southampton beat Ipswich, remember? So it is one of these, and because we have got a good record there. I can see people thinking, it's a cakewalk, and we'll turn up and we'll smash them because they're terrible, which we should do, Cunha or no Cunha. But let's just see. I mean, you look at that, we're 4 points out of 15 we could get out of them games that are on the screen. That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And Leicester, I can't see picking up more than a couple. Ipswich, depending on the game against us, about the same. So it's a trickle towards the finish line. I'm still confident, because they're not as good as we are on our day. But it's been on our day and something ridiculous happens. And it's Wolves. We've seen it before. So confidence-wise, I'd say 6. But that's just because of we've seen it. We're all old enough to have seen this before.
Yeah, we've seen this story before, and I don't want it to be getting to that sort of those last 3 games that I've mentioned. Brighton away, Brighton at home, Crystal Palace away, Brentford at home. Those are 3 tough games. And Price, where are you mentally with the Wolves train at the moment?
But if you want my out of 10 rating, I think it's a 9 for me. I think we're staying up. I mean, I remember you have to dial back a few pods, but one of the last ones I was on, I originally said that we'd stop up with 28 points, which everyone thought was quite low, but it's been a low bar this season. Like I said, that bottom 3 is probably the worst bottom 3 the Premier League's ever seen. Southampton and Leicester are basically championship teams. Ipswich, they're the ones out of the 3 that have a little bit of fight about them. That being said, I do find that I can foresee a scenario where we lose to Southampton next week, but beat Ipswich away at their place, because that's just how silly things can work. But I know it's gone off screen, but I know from Leicester's fixtures, from the ones that they had, there we go. I don't think they win any of those games. I think they only get 1 point, and that's probably going to come against Man United, I'd say, because that's where that point will come from. They're just not good enough against any of the other opponents, that City, Newcastle, Brighton, Liverpool. They just don't come near them. Southampton, it doesn't matter about Southampton because they're just
yeah. I'm literally just looking on the Odds Checker website at the moment. Southampton at the moment are 1 to 500 to get
I'm surprised
relegated.
anyone's even giving odds, to be honest.
Yeah,
They should
I
just
think
paid out on all of them.
Maximus Roy said 5 to 1. You can actually get best odds on Wolves to get relegated at 8 to 1 with Bet365.
Yeah, I don't see. That's what my confidence at 9. I don't see it. We shouldn't be in this position anyway. But we're just better than those 3 teams. Ipswich, they've got a tough run. Forest, being reinvigorated. Get my words out.
Yeah, they've got that Champions League place to keep hold of now, having the Forest after that win against City yesterday. So you back Forest to at least get a point there next week.
You look at all those teams Ipswich have got left to play. They're all fighting for something.
Yeah, I don't see if just picking up a point away from home. And they've got Bournemouth away and Chelsea away in their next 5 fixtures with 3 home games against Forest, Wolves, and Arsenal.
And at some point, that was probably our tactic. At some point this season, just don't be as shit as Leicester or Ipswich, and then we'll stay up. But yeah, for me, I think we'll put like probably about 4 points on the board off them. I don't think we'll be far away from my 28 points prediction. And I know it was a low bar, but yeah, I think we'll be far away from it. But I think we'll be staying up, and I don't think that the bottom 3 will trouble any of the scorers for the rest of the season.
There you go, Jeff Shea and Wolves. We're all staying up, start preparing that pre-season tour of South Korea. Thanks for joining myself, Stu, Greg, and Pricey on tonight's Wolves Fancast Review show. Over an hour and a half for you to listen to. So please press the like button for us giving up 90 minutes of our life where we probably could have spent it doing something a bit better. But we do appreciate you for joining, supporting the channel. Be sure to follow us at Wolves Fancast across all social media. Please take a look at our merch store, wolvesfancast.tmail.com. Have a good rest of the week. And next week, we'll be back on Friday to preview the big game away to Southampton. As always, up the Wolves. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.